Hello, welcome to Keep Your Torch Lit. Unfortunately, Sophia cannot make it today, but we have honestly someone even better. Sorry, Sophia. We have Akshay from season 1 and season 5 of Survivor Michigan. How are you doing, Akshay?
What's up? I'm excited to be here. First, keep your torch lit with the new hosts.
Yep, and we are here to recap episode 8, merge episode of season 6. This was a crazy episode. Not like in terms of like the vote or whatever. I guess not really a vote, but just in terms of like interesting episode to watch.
Yeah, I don't know how you felt, but for me, it definitely like kind of threw me back 4 years ago to COVID. That week, discovering what happened, discovering, you know, I don't even know. Were you even there 4 years ago? But
No, I was in high school
yeah, but
when
I
COVID happened.
so
So
a little different experience for you. But I definitely remember being in that room talking like while merge is happening and not caring about the challenge whatsoever because we're just so focused on like, is the season going to keep happening? Like, what is this COVID thing? Oh crap! Like, and I'm sure we'll get into that more as we get into the events of this episode. But yeah, it was definitely the worst kind of PTSD. Basically, was watching this episode.
going into this merge, I think a very like dynamic cast and like a lot of things have gone maybe like in a little predictable, but not to the from. I think there's a lot of parts, and especially after the blow up of Katie, I think there is that could happen like going into the merge.
Yeah, I think it's definitely set up really well. I think I get a very season one vibe where like a lot of the maybe like not
Yeah.
super big players were the ones taken out early. And
Mhm.
because of that, it just kind of leaves two massive, sides of big personalities where it's going to kind of be head to head, most likely the rest of the way. And who's going to come out on top, I guess we'll see. Katie was like the first big shot that the Sokka side won. Is Obsidian going to be able to come back now, or is it just going to be a Sokka steamroll, despite the fact that they have less numbers? Like, it'll be really interesting to watch how the merge plays out, considering that it seems
Mhm.
like all the big personalities stayed in, which is other than Katie, unfortunately, which is very
Yeah.
unfortunate. Like
I mean,
the
like
entire
to
Survivor
be
Michigan community missed out.
to be fair, I will say there are a lot of big personalities on this cast, like
Yeah.
which like I think is a good thing. We definitely lost some like Abby in particular. I think is like someone that like would have been fun to see. Mason would have been great to see still, and Barge like Taylor and Grace that are very like present, and that's not even all. I can person on this cast. It's just
Yeah.
there's like you said, there's so many big personalities, and I think it's gonna be interesting. So we end episode 7 with T-Rex going pretty. I can't think of the word. Like it was an obvious vote, but
Right.
we end with Emily voting for Jack, and we kind
Yeah.
of start episode 8 going into that. And like in terms of like pure like logic, it makes 100% sense to vote Jack because you know Q, and if he has an idol, you're going home. So how do you feel about her you know voting Jack?
It's not the worst move. Like, obviously, I respect like the heroes, healers, hustlers. Oh, final five. If there's an idol, let me vote to make sure I'm safe. The problem is, she was the only one that voted, and had it gone to it, and like T Rex had an idol, and it gone to a tie for Jack and Emily, she was still going home. Like, it wasn't that like, oh, because she made this brilliant vote to save herself, now she's gonna be safe. Like on the tiebreaker, Jack is going home. She took out a big threat and saved herself. Like, no, all that's going to happen is that on the revote, she goes home and the idol got you. So, like, if that's the case and you don't have anyone else voting with you to take out Jack, like, just stick with your side, because now all that happens is you look like flaky, you look flip-floppy, you look very untrustworthy to your side, because it's like, oh, the moment you became even remotely vulnerable, you tried to throw us under the bus, which, like, duh, that's what you're supposed to do on Survivor. But like, people get like weirdly antsy when their name comes up. So it's just one of those things that, like, since you were gonna go home anyways, just take the thing that will set you up best for the future. Because now all you did was that little bit of like trust you were creating with George and Jack in particular. The Jack trust is at a 0 right now, and the George trust is like there, but it's gone down because you didn't tell him you were going to vote Jack either.
I agree. I think like I see why Emily did it, but like chances are she was gonna go home regardless of if an idol was played or not. Or sorry, if an idol was played, like on home regardless if she voted Jack or not. So like I think I see why she did it, but I think like there probably was a better way to like go about that.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like Jack still trusts Emily. I just think he's going to be a little as a pair. I think he's also starting to catch on to them a little bit. And I'm just going to see how this dynamic of this 3 will play out.
Yeah, I think it would have been more interesting to see how they would have played out with the small tribes in particular, just because they basically didn't have to worry about the fallout, because right after that was merge. So it was kind of one of those things where like, oh, I totally would want to see that tribe go to it. But like, that's kind of how I felt about every tribe, where it's like, I want to see how they would do it one more tribal, but then the merge happened. So you didn't get to see it.
Especially because like they had Ellie there, and it's like, I mean, yeah, the same thing probably happens without Ellie, but like 4 people tribals are because there's no wiggle room at all. Like 2 people throw a vote and you have either a 2-1-1 or a 2-2. So it's like much more. It feels a lot different than like with Ellie being there, and like there's a lot more room for people to move. And I think George, Jack, and Emily used that just to make sure that like T-Rex was going home for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like, especially with Ian finding the Obsidian idol, I remember there was so much paranoia on Obsidian, and especially the Quesadilla 5 or 4 now, of like, who has this damn Obsidian idol? Because as far as I can tell, and they like look everyone in the face, they're like, none of us have it. So who the hell has this idol? And that's why it's like, what if T-Rex has it? What if Justin has it? There was I remember some people were like, what if Anne had it and we voted her out with it? Like, what if that was a brilliant blindside? And it's like, obviously that wasn't the case, but it's just one of those things where like, who would think that someone on the other tribe has your idol? So it was so much paranoia around it. So that's why I was like, T-Rex doesn't talk to anyone. Oh, maybe it's because he has an idol. Like, it's just like anything that said anything about an idol, someone was like, yeah, they have the idol for sure, even though they did not.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, and like I really liked how it was edited, as like we didn't know who had the Obsidian idol until, well, I had an idea like someone on Sokka would even have a chance at getting it, but after like we got that explanation, it made sense, and I think it was a good time for the audience to know, like, oh, who has this idol?
Also, the story behind the Obsidian idol is actually insane. I don't know if like you've heard that one, have you?
I feel maybe it depends on what you're talking about, but I would like to hear this regardless.
Yeah, it's just like obviously there's what was told on the show, which is correct. Like Tarek or T-Rex left the clue on the ball. Ian, as probably as using his producer knowledge, saw it, grabbed it, knew exactly where to go. But because there was like a winter freeze or something in Ann Arbor at that time, we had it in like this pot on, I think, South U, or maybe it was State, next to like a Jimmy John's or something. It was just this like random pot. Obviously it's winter, so everything is dead. So it's just this pot of dirt that the idol's in. Because of this winter freeze, like there was a whole bunch of precipitation, and then everything froze over. So this pot is basically just like solid ice, like dirt and ice, and nothing else. So Ian knows exactly where it is. And I think searched multiple times. Like he went there once, it was still ice. So he was like, okay, whatever. Went a second time, still ice. So then like came back with the shovel. The shovel, I don't think went through the ice. Like he was like, okay, I'll come back with hot water. So goes back with hot water, tries to melt the ice. It doesn't do enough. So he's still trying to just like break the ice with this shovel, which the idol is completely under, and he's completely correct. So he spends like, I think he said 6 hours trying to dig this thing and is like makes basically zero progress and is just ranting at us in his producer chat. Just like, guys, like this is ridiculous. Like, just let me know if it's there or not, because I'm spending so much time and it's frozen and every part. And we're going back and forth in like the producers chat. Like, what do we do here? Like, do we just let him have it? Do we give it to him? Do we just say, nope, sorry, you got to deal with the elements kind of thing? And then we kind of just thought about it and we went like, yes, you were supposed to put in an effort. And clearly he did. Like he did everything you could possibly do to get this idol, spent the amount of time, probably more than the amount of time you were supposed to get this idol. So in the end, we just kind of went, okay, Ian, yeah, you have the idol. Like, and then I think a week or two later, once things actually like were able to melt, I don't know if he actually went and got it, or like Matthew, who had hidden it in the first place, went and got it and gave it to him, or what that situation was. But that's when he actually got the idol. So even though he got the idol like earlier, he actually had no physical possession of the idol because it was just frozen under this pot, and no one could access it because it was that pot was completely frozen over.
That's so fun. I did not know that. So were you guys scared of like another player finding the idol after you gave possession of the idol, even though it was still like in that pot?
A little bit, but like one, Ian had the clue that was like the most obvious. So unless someone like perfectly put it together, they weren't going to. And two,
right,
it was still frozen. So like even if someone else found the correct pot, which I think someone even might have in that time period, like I think someone found it and like didn't even attempt to dig one time, or like that happened. Yeah, they were just like, okay, that's frozen. We're not even gonna try. And then they just kind of kept walking. So it was one of the situations where like I think the first day where it was possible to dig and like to thaw it out, either Ian went and got it or Matthew went and got it for Ian. So it was like one of those situations where like, yes, there was sort of a worry, but it is frozen. And if Ian, with all his effort that he was willing to put in, couldn't get it, no one else is crazy enough as Ian to put in that much effort. And they're not going to get it anyways, even if they do. So it's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's see. So, okay, so we get a little some more post tribal stuff. George is shocked he didn't receive a single vote, and like I talked about this with Sophia in the last episode recap, but like I think George did a really good job making sure that like he was kind of like viewed as this, I call it like the wounded bird strategy, kind of like, oh no, my closest ally has gone from the game. And like he has Lindsay and Taylor basically like crying over this whole situation.
Yeah.
Which to me is just like insane. And I think like especially like knowing Taylor and Lindsay, I think like it was less of what George did and more just of like how they played the game. Yeah. But I still want to give credit to George for the fact that like I like he definitely had a tough situation and was able to like get out of it.
George is a genius. The reason we wanted George to play Survivor Michigan at any point was post season 1. There was a game of Mafia, and George picked everyone out perfectly as they were the Mafia. Like he picked out which scenario, why it happened, how they were the Mafia, and was correct. Like, and from that moment, all of us that were producers for season 2 were like, George, you need to play. And so season 2, it didn't work. Season 3, it didn't work. Season 4, it didn't work. So it was just kind of one of those situations where like, George, we need you to play. And then luckily he was still in the area. So season 6 kind of came around and he was like, hey, I'm still here. And because we like had Ian applying and Noah applying and Katie applying already, it was like, we're literally never going to have a better time to have George on. Obviously, episode 1, day 1 happens, and we're like, oh my god, George and Katie are dating. This is completely different. But
Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, so we knew George, like, especially the season 1 people that were left, which there weren't many of us, but we knew that George was a super genius when it came to like just picking stuff out survivor wise. And so like he knows he reminds me of like Cochrane's answer in Caramoan. He's the chameleon where he can be like whatever personality he needs to be with whatever group of people. And like you said, he was the wounded bird with Taylor and Lindsay and a little bit of Jack too, where like, but like more apologetic to Jack of like, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you, man. Like, and same with Ellie, where it's just like, no, it's completely fine. Like you had to do what you had to do. You had to vote my girlfriend out. And with Noah, the handshake and the like you took my girlfriend out, like good move, but like I respect it. Like that's what Noah needed in that moment. Noah wouldn't have like fallen for the wounded bird at all, but he got the game
Right,
respects
exactly.
game strategy. So like George knows exactly how to play each person, and like I think it just worked out perfectly where he got no votes, but yeah, it's genius because really he probably should have been maybe one of the first people voted out if people were going based off biggest threats. And instead, he's going into the merge with very little threat level somehow, and yet one of the most connected people in the game.
Yeah, I'm really interested in because like you said, he did kind of talk with Noah, and Noah definitely didn't like. He wasn't like, oh, like George wants to work with me now, obviously, but he respected it at least, and isn't like I think as worried about George. But like I think there is this kind of looming like George versus Noah kind of battle that I see happening with like Ian kind of in the middle because Ian does seem to be kind of like doing whatever Ian wants to.
Yeah, I mean that's Ian, right? I mean, I think
Mm,
I I think of Ian almost. This is gonna not make sense when I first say it, so wait for the context. Similar to me, in the sense of like, yes, we have crazy personalities to begin with, but when we're playing Survivor, we turn those personalities up to like 11 because we know it's a TV show and we want entertainment, you know. So that's what Ian is doing a lot of the time, I think, where it's like, yeah, yes, Ian's a fun, quirky guy, but Ian is absolutely hamming it up for these cameras 100% of the time, and like it's working. He's entertaining as hell. But like because of that, he's going crazy. He's digging 6 hours per frozen idol, and he's trying to do a 6-6 deadlock so that both him and Katie are safe, but also exposing George and Katie's romance, and also like working with Grace and Noah, and they all have idols, and it's just like insanity all the way around.
Okay, so let's see. There's some other stuff kind of before the merge happens. We get a little bit from Noah. Like I said, he was talking about kind of like um this George thing and how like George is so enthusiastic about working with him that like he doesn't really buy it. And Noah seems to be really worried about like his threat level because he realizes that he's playing a very kind of like out there game. Like it's not a secret of who he's targeting and that he has been like a prominent person throwing out names.
Yeah, I mean, Noah was probably more targeted than I expected this entire season. Like even the Abby vote, where like all three of them were like 1, 2, 3, Ian, and then 3 seconds later they were voting for Noah. Like it just right
Yeah.
off the bat, like Noah became this huge threat, which I don't think any of us were really expecting. I think on like threat level for um former producers in particular, like George number 1 for sure, Ian close second, like Katie probably third because she's been here the longest, and then Noah was like he just became a producer for the first time for All Stars. Like he doesn't really know much compared to the other three. He's not going to be that big of a target. And then maybe partially because of Noah's personality, maybe because he was in a position of power from the start, finding the idol and then getting even more cocky potentially. Like he just somehow turned into like target number 1 and then embraced it. He was like, okay, if they all hate me, like screw it. I'm going after all of them. I'm going to be the godfather and like try and take everybody out. And until really the Luke vote, it was going exactly how he wanted every single vote. And I would say other than the Luke vote, it's probably gone how he's wanted every single vote. So it's really worked out for him so far. It's almost surprisingly, how well it's worked out for him. But yeah, I don't think a lot of us were expecting him to be as big of a target as he was.
I almost think maybe he was a bigger target because like he doesn't have as much productive production experience and he might not know to maybe kind of like take it back a little bit. Whereas like I think people like George and Katie and Ian to an extent, but like not really, knew to kind of like not go guns blazing right from the get-go.
That's true, especially if
And
like
but
All
like
Stars
Noah's
is the only season Noah had watched from a production
yeah.
standpoint. That's not exactly a good like, oh yeah, have a little bit of restraint kind of season because that's not
Right.
what happened on that season.
No, but like to Noah's credit, I think for playing that style of gameplay, he's doing a really good job, and that's impressive because most people that do that like don't play very well.
They're
It's
Kevin.
very
They
hit or
crash and
miss.
burn real quick.
Sure. Exactly, and like I mean, hey, I think we still have time for a crash like Heaven, but like I think like for now he's in a really good spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also got a really like just it was a really small segment, but I thought it was really funny with Grace and she's walking down like the Hollywood what is it called? The walk of
The Walk of Fame,
um
which is literally
Walk of
directly
Fame, yeah.
outside my apartment. So I was literally like, oh,
Oh
I know where that is.
no, like she like had a little piece of paper that had her name and was like winner of season 6, and I thought that was really funny. She's like, am I predicting the future?
I found it funny that she chose to like actually cover a real person star because there's a bunch of like empty stars on the Walk of Fame that she totally could have just put her name on. And it
I
would have
didn't
like
even
been
know
like,
that.
and there's like, I'm sure people do that all the time, but no, she literally covered someone who had a star and was like, this is now my star. Like, this is now the Grace Toll star. It is not your star anymore, which I just found
That's
hilarious.
that's so funny. That makes it even better. Was there anything else that stuck out to you like before the merge happened, or any other like pre-merge things that like you want to talk about?
Um, Not really. I think it's just like really interesting how everything is set up now going into the merged, where it's like there's two distinct sides and then there's a bunch of people in the middle. So the way this season has gone is like the people in the middle keep getting targeted. So is that going to keep continuing, or is it just finally going to be head to head battle, Quesadilla versus Sokka, like winner take all kind of thing?
Yeah, like we do get a couple people talking about how specifically with Justin, they feel like Justin's trying to play both sides and they don't really like that. And going into the merge, all we kind of know is like uh, Justin might be targeted.
It's
And
funny
like
because
that's
like
like
I think Ellie is playing both sides. I think Emily is playing both sides. I think Justin's just doing the worst job at playing both sides in that like
mm,
he made Sokka not trust him at all, and yet Quesadilla never really trusted him in the first place. So it's like he's completely the least trusted out of the people playing both sides. So he could easily be a first merge boot easy, or he can make it really far because no one trusts him. So let's just take him further. He's not going to win
mm,
anyways, kind of thing.
it's weird because I feel like Justin was like he was in a really tough spot given his swap tribe. And I feel like he was actually doing a pretty good job up until at least from what I remember, up until like the Katie vote. Because at that point I think like that's when he fucked up by like, just playing both sides completely. Where I think like if he would have just stuck to one side, he probably would have been okay. But like I get the fact that like Merge had like he didn't know what Merge was. And if his tribe loses again, like I assume that he thought he was going still. So I think like he probably should have just stuck to those soccer people, but like I don't know.
It's a tough one because, like you said, if Sokka loses a tribe swap, another immunity challenge there, he's gone no matter what. Like I don't really see him surviving over
Right.
Tejas or Lindsay as much as the edit was trying to like, ooh, maybe we'll take him out. No, that was never going to happen
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah.
So like it's tough. So it's like, do I stay with these people that I know are voting me out next time if we lose no matter what, or do I go back to these other people where I
And
might
hope
not have
we
been like
don't.
in the core alliance anyways, but like at least then they
Yeah.
trusted me more. So it's one of those like I would almost say lose-lose situations that he had, but it did screw him, and then you got Grace painting her face like a clown, so he had no chance after that.
Yeah, no, after that he was well, I mean, like, obviously he's still in at this point, but like it does sound like his name is coming up a lot.
Yeah,
And I think like to Ellie and Emily's credit, they also have been put in tough situations. I mean, Ellie was on, yes, they were on a tribe with like all Copoc or sorry, all Obsidian plus
yeah,
Ian, but very clearly was like on the bottom of that with Katie, Lindsay, and Taylor being kind of like the core of that Kobaka group. And Ellie, after the Katie vote, Ellie did a good job of being like, okay, like I'm not mad, and kind of like said like, hey, we like this vote happened. You guys didn't vote me, so let's kind of restart. And I think being having the opportunity to go onto the new Obsidian tribe and talk to George and Jack and Emily and gain those connections, I think did a Ellie did a really good job of like establishing those relationships and probably can get themselves to work with those Obsidian people, even though Ellie might not want to work with like Taylor, Lindsay, and I guess yeah, Taylor and Lindsay. I don't know how they feel about them right now, but
yeah. Ellie, I think, really needed that second difference maker, probably more than anyone else, just because like first voted for Jay or didn't vote for Jay when everyone else did. So, like then goes to the Obsidian Tribal, doesn't vote for Anne when everybody else did. Then on
yeah,
Kopaka, probably if Kopaka goes to Tribal at any point on their own, Ellie's probably going home. Like, because I think Katie and Ian end up saving each other, and then the rest of Obsidian takes out Ellie just because she was on the bottom anyways. And then even once Katie gets voted out, I would argue that had Kopaka lost, Ellie was still probably going home because of just like the connection Ian made with Lindsay and Taylor after Katie's vote out. So it was one of those situations where like Ellie was kind of screwed. And then by winning this second difference maker, they were able to make these connections that they just didn't have beforehand, and basically got closer to everyone that was on New Obsidian or New Obsidian as they were calling it. And because of that, like they go into merge not completely screwed. Like for the first time in this game, Ellie is not completely screwed, essentially.
yeah, I feel they have a lot of power. Like I don't know if power is the right word, but compared to where they were at, I see they have a lot of opportunity to
Opportunity. That's a good word.
yeah, opportunity for good gameplay. And I'm really excited to see what Ellie does. I think that's pretty much all that happens before we merge. So like when the merge happens, like what is like the timeline in terms of like COVID like happening?
Okay. So the way that year was, like not including Survivor, just this is how it happened. Like we knew COVID was a thing for the entire like winter semester, but it was just like this thing in Asia that we're not worried about.
Yeah.
Then like spring break happens, and as spring break is kind of happening, because Michigan has the earliest spring break in existence, so spring break starts at the end of February for Michigan.
Oh gosh.
So and that year just also happened to go into March, so it was like later than normal. But so as spring break was happening, the first cases in the U.S. started kind of coming up. So it's kind of like on the periphery for everyone, but right now no one really still knows what COVID is. We're just like, is this just like, because remember, like swine flu was a big deal back in the day, and like that basically didn't affect any of us, as far as I know, when we were like kids. So it was another one of those like, is this going to be swine flu where like no one actually cares, or like is this just going to be a flu where everyone kind of gets sick and then it's done? No one had any idea. And so we get to, the state of the merge. And at this point, I think pretty much no one, like it's being talked about consistently, but there's no decisions being made. And then at the merge, while we are in Mason Hall, during this merge, we get the announcement of the first case in our county where, where Ann Arbor and University of Michigan is. In that county was the first case at University of Michigan's hospital, no less. So that was like the first time So if we came back from spring break on Monday, this is now Wednesday evening, I want to say. No, it's Tuesday. Tuesday evening that this merge is happening, and this first case gets announced. So that's the first real time where we're just like, ooh, something's probably going to happen. Like, that was the first time where a
Yeah.
lot of us were just like, classes might get canceled, semester might get canceled. Is the season going to get canceled? I think that was, and then like, it's funny because like merge feast, merge idol clue, merge challenge, they're all super important moments. And yet the moment everyone walked out, not a single person was talking about Survivor at all. Like, we were all just talking about like what's going to happen. Like, they found a case. Like, that was the one thing we didn't want to happen. If they didn't find a case, nothing. But now they found a case in our hospital, like right there. We can see it from here.
Yeah.
What's about to happen? And then Wednesday, like, I went to my morning class on Wednesday, and literally for like the first 15 minutes, that professor was just like, classes are probably going to be canceled. This might be the last time you see me this year. And
Wow.
literally, as I'm debating of whether to go to my afternoon class or not, like right before it starts, we get the email of like, Thursday and Friday classes are canceled. Everyone go home.
Wow.
So it happened really quick. We're like, while we were on spring break, which is only 1 week for us, first case in the US. Tuesday after we come back, first case in Michigan in the university hospital. Wednesday, announcement that Thursday and Friday is canceled and everything's moving home. And by the weekend, everybody go home if you can, essentially. So that's how quick everything moved.
Yeah, I mean, like, I obviously had a different COVID experience, but it was like pretty similar. Whereas, like, I think I can't remember if we had classes canceled for. I think we had school on Thursday, and then Friday they were like no school, and a lot of people were like, oh, because it was Friday the 13th when that happened, and
Oh,
that's kind of a lot of people locked onto that, and that's kind of like, at least in my mind, that's when like COVID happen. But like, obviously, like, especially with the case in the hospital, like, that's right by you, like, that's definitely, I see why that would like maybe like go into like Thursday and Wednesday
yeah,
a little bit. I guess we're gonna weave in and out of COVID. I feel like it's like
yeah.
hard to like talk about both. But so we merged the
Yes.
Mimosa tribe. Honestly, because like I know like some stuff about season 6. Somehow I'd never heard of the merge tribe name. And I was just like, I really like that.
Merge tribe names are probably like the most disrespected names in existence, where it's like no one ever actually remembers them because it's just like, yeah, that's when they're
Oh
merged.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no, because no one says
Hmm.
like Mimosa, come on in, like the way he does with all the other
Right.
tribes. So it's just one of those things where like they get completely, like, I couldn't tell you what most of the merged tribe names were, other than the ones I played. Like, I remember season 1 and season 5's merged tribe name, and I did not remember season 6's until I watched it. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember making fun of it because it's another alcoholic name. Like, totally. Um, but yeah, it made sense. I mean, orange, mimosa, like, it sounds kind of Fijian. Like, sure, we'll take it.
Yeah. I've heard worse tribe names. So I'll
There's
take
been many
Mimosa.
worse. There will be many worse coming up in future seasons.
uh yes, yes, there are. So let's see. So the challenge, it was a, I guess in my mind, a classic. I don't know why, but like I like this challenge. Solo cups, stacking them. Doesn't I don't think anything super notable happened to this challenge except that Ian wins immunity.
Ian was trash talking throughout the entire challenge, which was like, well done. And it totally worked. I don't think it like actually led to anybody falling, but it just like kind of kept the legend of Ian going very strong. Of like, only
Mhm.
Ian would trash talk throughout an entire challenge about keeping your hand steady, and just like everyone kind of laugh at it. Like, no one was mad at it.
Mhm.
And it was it's like keeping your hand steady with the solo cup is like sort of a Survivor classic, like you said, but like I don't think this version of it's ever been done before. Um, and I, like you said, I really like the way it played out. It definitely went a little higher than I think we were expecting. Like, I think when they got to
Oh,
7 or 8 cups, we were just like, how are they
that's a
holding that?
I know, it like I was just like surprised that it like went that long, but like good for them.
Yeah,
I
like
think
I
Ian.
couldn't even do like one. So like good for them.
Yeah, I think like obviously we know Justin in particular is like probably one of the people like in danger, but I think like in general, Ian is probably someone that like would benefit a lot from winning this challenge. I think like especially given the fact that he just like dropped the bomb like 2 weeks ago. I think of all people the vote could flip on, like Ian is probably it would make sense.
Yeah, Ian is also like a very paranoid player just in general. So I think one of those things
Mhm.
like having immunity where he can just have a mental like not necessarily a chill week because Ian can never have a chill week, but just a week where he doesn't have to worry about him going home, I think is
Yeah.
very beneficial for him as a player.
Mhm. So we also get another difference maker from this challenge. I believe Grace is the difference maker. I forgot. Oh, it was because she was the first person to drop from the challenge, and she has the opportunity to pick someone and compete in a challenge, and the winner of this challenge will receive both of their votes essentially.
Yeah. And I was very jealous because in season one during the steady hand challenge, I lasted 5 seconds and was the first person out. So I was like, I would have loved an advantage for being the first person out of that challenge. But yeah,
Mhm.
basically that was the difference maker that they were told about. Obviously, there was the idol clue hidden difference maker as well, along with the knowledge that an idol clue was hidden at Merge Feast, which made Ian's actions make a little bit more sense about the pizza critiques.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was definitely an interesting like I would argue that Indian poker, which is not my kind of Indian, just to make it clear, Indian poker is not the most like engaging thing to watch at all. But I think just because it was like one person in the core of the Saka alliance and one person in the core of the KCD alliance going head to head is what made it so interesting.
I was like, because I mean, obviously, it ends up not really mattering because
Yeah.
how it ends. But I was thinking like obviously, I think Grace has two options, and they're either play it the way she did and pick someone from the other side that you think you can beat. But I think it's so risky to lose your vote.
Yeah.
I think like I wonder if it would have been smart to just like pick someone from your alliance and like not have to work because like if you I mean you have to be careful with who you pick, but if you pick someone that you know is going to vote with you, it doesn't really matter. You don't gain or lose anything essentially.
Right. And that's always the like risk reward in Survivor where it's like I don't think we even ever thought that through as like the as we're crazy people, like the alliance group was like just Matthew was in charge of at that point. So obviously he's thinking of like the most game body like result at all times. And so
Yeah.
obviously the only thing we're thinking of is like, oh, who is she gonna pick from the Obsidian Alliance? And like
Oh, yeah.
um and then it was only like when I was really watching this episode that I was like, oh, she totally could just pick like Lindsay or Tejas
Mhm.
and like
Yeah.
guarantee that they all just keep their own votes no matter what. And thank God she didn't do that because that would have been so boring. We might have just edited it out at that point. Like that would have just been like horrible to
Yeah.
watch. But yeah, I think she picked the right person. Where she probably picked the person that's most likely to fold after a show of strength, which I think we saw a few times in Indian poker, where it was like she had a three. They both had threes at one point, and the only thing
Yeah.
lower than a three is a two or an
The
ace
two and a one.
and
Yeah.
Lindsay still folded, and you're just like, okay, you know, like, and there were a lot of those moves where like you see Ian in the background just losing his mind because they're both making like the wrong decision based on like poker
Yeah.
logic, but it ended up working out for Grace. She picked the right person, and she got Lindsay's vote out of it.
Mhm. And like realistically, I don't know how much it would have mattered if the vote was going to go towards Justin. And like we can talk about, I don't know how much it spoils episode 9 if they go in that direction or not.
Yeah,
But that's something we can talk about. I do want to go back to the idol clues. So Ian finds an idol clue in the pizza box and ends up finding the idol. But there was also the difference maker idol clue. So this is like a separate idol, right?
yeah. This is the merge idol now, so it's not the Obsidian idol, it's not the stock idol. There's no Kopaka idol. There was never a Kopaka idol. It was
Mm-hmm.
just specifically the merge idol, and it's not the like a second half of the legacy idol. This is a completely different idol from all the other idols we've already seen and talked about. Where
Wait, so is
pretty,
Ian is Ian's the merge idol, or is wait, okay, let me rephrase this. Is the clue that Grace found the same clue to the one Ian found?
no, actually, like I think in the episode they say like this is the first clue, and like the second clue was found at the merge feast, or like or something like that, where it's like one has the next clue in the line. So it's like
Okay. So
so like
let me rephrase my rephrase. They
sure,
go to the same idol.
they're for the same idol, but
Oh,
one
okay,
clue is
okay.
just
That's what I
further
was confused
along.
about. Okay, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
I
yeah,
think like
Ian ends
Ian,
up
because
finding
he
it.
found the idol found the idol clue, I should say, at the merge feast. It was like because you put in the effort to find this, and that's what he was doing when he was searching through every piece. He wasn't criticizing the fact that they
Right,
were all pepperoni, which like he also was because he's Ian, but like he was mainly like trying to find the idol clue,
right.
and with his knowledge, he knew it was somewhere in the pizzas. Like they checked the plates, they checked everything. Um, and then the pizzas had the triple thing, the triangle
Yeah,
thing
the
that I don't even know what it's
table.
for. Yeah, the mini table that I don't understand, and we are like, that's perfect. So I think under one of those was a clue,
Uh,
um, and so that's why Ian went under every single one, grabbed it, and you see Grace just like looking directly at him as he's doing it. So she obviously sees he found the idol. I think Noah
yeah.
or clue idol clue. I think Noah probably saw it too because Noah was like right over his shoulder for most of it. So, like, advantage Sokka when it comes to idols. Once again, these guys are just like way ahead of
Mhm.
the game, and it's surprising because you would think like at least George would understand because like he hid one at the season one merge like feast too. So
Right.
like he should understand. Hey, there's about to be an idol clue somewhere, but no, he just was talking because he's George.
And you could also argue that like even if he knows that there is going to be one at the merge feast, like multiple people saw Ian find it. Granted, it was his like close allies,
Yeah,
so I don't think it mattered for Ian that much. But if let's say Grace and Noah see George find it, it's a completely different story. And I
very
think
true.
George knows that, where Ian doesn't have like the self restraint to
No,
care.
yeah,
But
not at
it
all.
ends up working out great for Ian. He has an idol. All three people, or I mean, like I guess that I don't know how much of an alliance they are at this point, just because Ian does seem to be branching out a little. But like he knows where all three idols are, and all three of them know that they have the idol, which I think is like if that happened to me, I would be like, I would be a little scared just because, like, I mean, yes, you know where everything is, but they all know where everything is. And I
Yeah,
think, like, knowledge, I hate using knowledge as power given the context of what it means now. But knowledge is power. And I think, like, especially knowing that Grace and Noah are so close, for Ian, I'd be particularly scared because you have two people that really could go after you. Granted, your idol is only good for three tribals, which I think is going to overall benefit Ian in the long run because, like, why target him because he has an idol that's going to expire?
well, Grace has the idol that's going to expire.
Oh wait, okay, wait, sorry, Grace. So Grace. Oh, you're so right. In my mind, Ian found the idol. Not, I totally forgot Grace found the idol. You're so
Yeah,
right. Okay, great. So okay, let me rephrase that. Then I guess um, yeah, I would be scared if I'm Ian. I mean, like, I think Grace and Noah have reason to target Ian at some point. I just think it's a matter of when, and they have
yeah,
to be so careful because Ian has an idol.
yeah. I mean, I think especially as we're getting further and further along in the game, I think Ian and Noah are becoming less of this tight pair and more two people that realize that they're going to need to take each other out to have a chance to win the game kind of situation. So, and it's just like getting to
Mhm.
that much earlier than I think anybody thought it would. Um, and so the fact that all three of these people that had been in the core three basically of the Sokka alliance, um, sort of, really Noah and Grace kind of had always pushed Ian to the outside, and Ian kind of had been making more connections through his connection with Katie with Obsidian than either Noah or Grace had. So, but like realistically, the three people that we've seen as an audience, probably narrate the Sokka tribe the most. Now all three of them have idols, and that was insane. Even as a production team, like how could we ever predict that was going to happen? That like the idol for Sokka went to Noah. Okay, not too shocking. The idol for Obsidian went to Ian. What the heck? And then the idol went for the merge idol also happened to go to Grace. Like, and the fact that it wasn't that like, oh, Ian found the idol and was like, okay, fine, Grace, you take it, so that he lowered his threat level. No, each of them literally found one of the idols. Like, it was so crazy. As a production team, it was a little bit of like, really, all three in the same alliance found an idol. But at the same time, oh my God, all three in the same alliance found an idol. Like, it's like both sides right there. As a production team, where it's like, it's really cool to see how this will play out now. Will they work together? Will they work against one another now? Like, how is this going to go?
Okay, so I guess kind of like the rest of the episode is kind of like it's definitely, it was a weird ending because I also didn't know like what happened. All I knew was COVID happened and it like turns online. I did not know that Tejas unfortunately quits the game, and I think like I mean, I loved Tejas. I thought he was a fun character, but like the episode ended in a like good way. I feel like ending in a vote out would have felt like it would have felt weird, and obviously like production couldn't have controlled that. But I think the way it ended up like being edited and the way like it was a very like empowering kind of ending, and I thought it was just like I was like I don't happy is not the right word, but I was just kind of like I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I think it was just such a like weird experience to just relive. I was just in awe of like everything.
Yeah, no, I mean it was a very weird situation. Like, and I appreciate that like George kept the original email that we all got saying like Thursday, Friday's canceled, everyone really go home. Cool. And then he kept like Tejas' original message with the 20 likes on GroupMe, you know, like so clearly that's production liking it too. It's not just the players. But yeah, no, it was definitely like I said. So the entirety of the merge feast and challenge, we're just kind of talking about like, hey, COVID, what's going to happen? What's like, how do we play this kind of thing? And then, like I said, once we kind of saw, hey, that case is right there in the Michigan, University of Michigan Hospital, something's going to happen. I distinctly remember walking home from that tribal going, I think that's the last Survivor thing I'm going to go to this year. Like, I legitimately thought that. And then, of course, the next day, email comes out. Hey, like, Thursday, Friday class is canceled. And so, obviously, everyone goes straight to, I think we were using Slack at that point. So, everyone goes straight to the Slack. And it's just like, okay, what the heck do we do? Like, how does this affect everything? And I think there was a vote amongst the producers first of like, or maybe it wasn't even an official vote. It was just, what do we want to do? And I think everyone kind of wanted to try and keep it going if we could. That was kind of the like pretty unanimous decision. I don't know if there was any really resistance other than token resistance. So then it became, okay, we all want to keep it going. Obviously, the players are more important than us in this situation. Let's see what they do. And I'm obviously, I don't know the results of that vote, but I'm pretty sure it was overwhelmingly that they want to continue. Like, if there were 12 people in the game at that point,
that makes sense.
I think it was at worst 9-3 that they want to continue. I think it might have been like 10-2 or 11-1 or 12-0. Like, it was definitely no more than 3 people said they don't want to continue, and I don't think it was that many either. So that's why it was like, okay, now that we know the season's going, let's so we usually have everything predetermined weeks in advance. We try and get everything done. Right. I'm sure you guys do something similar of like right when the season starts, and then we'll have a merge meeting if necessary to talk about the rest of the season, but usually we don't need to. And like challenges are assigned, twists are determined in advance. Like, everyone knows what's going to happen the rest of the season. So all the challenges were already assigned for the rest of the season at this point. So obviously those were going to need to change. So I'm pretty sure it was Saturday day, maybe it was Friday day, daytime, where like me and Aaron met up. We went to the Noodles and Company on State, I'm pretty sure. And then went to Mason Hall where, we had one last Survivor meeting for the in person for the year at least, in one of the rooms where we just kind of went over the new plan for the rest of the season. So basically, it was primarily of like it's all going to be on Zoom or some form. I don't think we knew what Zoom was at that point. So it was going to be some form of online. Like I'm pretty sure if you see the like LE view of the challenge in the next episode, like it's not Zoom that they're using. I think they're using Google Meet at that point or something. So
Google Meet was kind of the thing for a little bit, and then like Zoom happened, and then it just like everything was Zoom.
Yeah, I remember we just used Google Meet because through our UMich accounts we had Gmail accounts. So like Google Meet just was like the easy one, kind of thing. And then like you said, COVID happened and everything was Zoom. So everything kind of switched to Zoom as of the tribal in episode 9. But before that, it was like, okay, we'll find some platform to go online, which ended up eventually being Zoom. There was a bit of chaos there as well too, which is actually pretty funny. With like it was Google Meet for a second, then it was Zoom, but obviously like at this point Michigan didn't have a Zoom account, so it was like we were only using free Zoom, and so that leads to the greatest cutoff at 40 minutes in episode 9 ever, which we will see. But also it led to like, oh, should we use other platforms then maybe so we don't have this 40-minute issue? And also it was like harder to film specific like people with the free version. Like you couldn't do gallery and specific and pin someone. Like it was harder to do all that stuff. So Michigan created their like own thing for that semester called Blue Jeans.
I did not know about this.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know what they were using. Maybe it was like some partnership with Skype or whatever, but it was like specifically for the University of Michigan, and it sucked. Like it sucked horribly. Like it was horrendous. It was like the generic brand Zoom. Like it was just so much worse in every way. And I remember we tried it once, and because we were just like, okay, this, especially after Zoom cut out on us during a tribal, we're like, okay, Blue Jeans is at least comes with our Michigan account. Should we try it? And I didn't go to the challenge or tribal that they tried it, but I literally just remember Aaron's post in the players chat afterwards and was like, okay, we're switching back to Zoom because fuck Blue Jeans. And so I was like, oh, okay. So it went well, clearly. So we paid for one Zoom account and everything went off of that one paid Zoom account. The rest of like the semester. And then of course the next semester next year, Michigan has a partnership with Zoom and it's all free. But like for that one semester, it was like, okay, I guess we're using Zoom, but let's pay for it because the free version sucks. And our things go longer than 40 minutes. So that had its own chaos. But then it was also like, okay, we got to redo all the challenges that we had planned because all of the challenges we had planned were for in person. And then it was like people choosing, okay, I'll do the challenge for this week, I'll do the challenge for that week. And it was also like pretty like simple, I would say. I don't think there was any like arguments. I think everyone was really trying to get the season going. And then I think there was still a little bit up in the air. I think Tejas had said he might not stay. I don't think he said from the beginning, like, I'm out. I think there was a like, listen, I'm going to head back home. I'm going to talk to my family. And then I'll come back with the decision. So it was up in the air of like, are we hosting tribal? And I think that's part of the reason why we did an in-person tribal, because like we had it scheduled. I think we probably scheduled it right after merge challenge, and we weren't completely sure whether Tejas was canceling or not. So it was just one of those situations where it was like, okay, we have it. Some people have left already. Should we just like FaceTime them? Because like we've had people that weren't able to make tribal, that were sick, that FaceTimed into tribals before. So we're like, okay, let's just like kind of do that if anyone's gone home yet. But a lot of people were still there. And you'll see the rest of the season. There's like, I would say 6, maybe 5 or 6 people that just stayed on campus anyways. So they did the thing you're not supposed to do in person. But
so like that, I was gonna ask. So like, is it So are people still kind of in person and then like with like the computer on Zoom kind of like on the side? Or
Yeah, I mean,
like
our official thing was we recommend not meeting in person because we wanted no responsibility for anything that happened to anyone. So
right.
we're like we recommend not meeting in person, but obviously we can control what you do. So just be safe if you do. But every official game thing will now be on online. So it was like every challenge and tribal from then on will basically
Okay.
be entirely online. Um,
Oh, okay, okay.
but like it's after the
But some people are
tribal.
still having like
But yeah, but I think, like I said, I think 5 or 6 people stayed in Ann Arbor just because it was like either they couldn't go
mm,
home for sickness reasons, like their grandparents lived with them, they didn't want to put them at risk, or
right,
there was just
obviously,
not
yeah.
enough room at home, or they're paying for the rest of the apartment, might as well stay there. Hey, everyone's left Ann Arbor. There's less people in Ann Arbor now. It's actually safer there. So it's like all of those things kind of came through. So you will see for the rest of the season, like people still meeting up occasionally, where you're just like, wait, isn't that not supposed to happen? And like, yeah, it's not. But again, it's like no one really
Like,
knew
yeah.
what COVID was at that point. We didn't know how dangerous it was. A lot of people our age in particular were not taking it seriously because they're like, whatever, even if we get it, we'll get sick and then we'll be fine. Like there was just like
Mm,
so much uncertainty that people were making, in some cases, probably bad decisions for their health. It ended up working out. Everyone's still alive and fine to this day. But yeah, you will still see some people meeting up the rest of the season, but realistically, this is an online season from now on.
good to know. That's interesting because like my season, I obviously can't spoil it that much, but my season, I played season 8, and it is a post-COVID, post-COVID, post-online season where like it was the first in-person season since season 6, and or since season 5 if you want a full season. And there was this weird transitioning period where all still wearing masks, or Zoom was like a lot of people were still talking on Zoom. If there was ever a COVID scare, they would occasionally do a challenge online. Like it was very much like still, I mean, it's still like an in-person season, but it's like after COVID happened, like I think like it changed completely. Like everyone, like if someone, there was a good period of time where if someone was sick, like we would be like, hey, we have a Zoom challenge ready, like as a backup just in case. And like this went on for like probably a couple seasons. So like, and obviously it's not like fully on Zoom or anything, but it's just interesting like the impact that it's had.
Yeah, I mean it sucked honestly. Like it was one of those situations where like Survivor was one of those things that it's so different from everything else any of us are doing. I feel like on campus,
Right.
like especially this semester, like season 6 probably was one of the ones I was least involved in production wise, just because I was so busy for the first half of the season. On
Yeah.
I was on a dance team, so like that competition season was the first half of the season. So I was at practice every day. I missed so many things. So when merge happened, I was so excited because like my competition season ended, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna make it to everything else, like post merge. I'm not gonna miss anything.
yeah.
And then of course, like I get to merge, the first thing I go to in a while, and they're like, yep, everything's moving online, and I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So
That's rough.
yeah, so it was just like it's, but like yeah, like I said, it's very different than everything else that we've done. I appreciate like a lot that we didn't cancel the season because I think it was very
Mhm.
helpful for everybody, production, players, everyone involved, to have just like that little bit of normalcy and that little bit of like escape from our families. In all honesty,
Mm.
because I don't know about y'all, but my family was like went overboard on like family bonding time during COVID, to the point that like
Mm.
every single day after dinner we had to play some form of game as a family. Where I'm just
Wow.
like guys, we're seeing each other every moment of every day, and we're literally not seeing anybody else. Like, and we played every game we possibly could in this house already. So like I end up missing so many things online of season 6 because my family just went crazy. So like having, but like still having the like, hey, what's going on in the game? Like people still regularly messaging about like something that has nothing to do with COVID, nothing to do with school, nothing to do with, man, I wish I could see you. Like none of that. Just talking about Survivor, just like the same way we would if everybody was still there. I think it was just like mentally very, very helpful for the rest of that semester.
Like, I'm really glad that the season continued as well as a viewer. Like, it's just like it's nice to like. It would be weird if it was like season 5 and then season 7 happens and like there's no season 6, or like half of 6 is released and then like the rest is like never happened.
Yeah, we do like a Netflix drop and just like release all of season 6 at once, and but it's only
Yeah,
like
that
half the
would,
season.
yeah. You know, like now that I think about it, I don't know how much you've watched Big Brother, but Big Brother Canada 8 had a similar
Yeah,
thing. It was during
exactly.
COVID. It was like weirdly, it's like the one thing that like got canceled because of COVID. I can't think of any other like reality show that had to like, or that I would watch that like shut down in the middle besides Big Brother Canada 8. And it
Yeah,
had a very like this episode kind of felt similar to that. I mean, obviously because it's COVID, but like it was a very like everyone was kind of in unison about this. They were all kind of like there was just kind of like an understanding that like we're going through something that like no one's ever gone through before. Or I mean, none of us have really gone through. And the uncertainty is definitely scary. And I think just like the way this episode ended, it like I don't know, it felt good in a way.
yeah. I meof it was definitely sad seeing Tejas go. Like you said,
Yeah.
he had a pretty engaging personality. Obviously, didn't film as much as we would have liked. So George kind of had to shove him in wherever he could. And but like realistically, he wasn't going anywhere for a really long time.
No, he was
Um,
in a solid spot. Like, I mean, I definitely think it would have been tough for him to win, just given how big personality
yeah,
or how many big personalities there were. But I don't think like I wouldn't have count him out. Like, I think he would have been fun to stay around, and it sucks that we don't get to see him. But at least, like, I mean, again, in my mind, Justin was going if this like
yeah, for sure. No,
ends
I
up
don't.
not
I don't even think there's
happening.
a question, honestly, because
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Sokka had 6 votes at that point because they stole Lindsay's. Obsidian was just like save yourselves kind of thing, like, and like they were
Right.
sacrificing Justin. Like he was gone, probably unanimously. Like I don't think anyone was gonna save him if like this if Tay just doesn't leave, like realistically. So Justin got absolutely spared because of this result, but also like Tejas was going nowhere. I think Tejas had a really good shot at final 3 because he was like the 4th or 5th guy in that Sokka alliance, realistically, in terms of targets from the Obsidian side. But he was probably like, it was Grace wanted, I think Noah and Tejas were like her top 2 guys, and I think Lindsay probably had, Grace and maybe Ian, but like also Tejas. And then Noah was like, yeah, Grace, Tejas. Like Tejas was just like in everyone's final 3 somehow. So he was in like such a good position, and obviously I had the Brown connection with him, so I'm always hoping for him to do well. Like we have a lot of mutual friends, weirdly, like even though I don't think we've talked once in our life, like we had so many mutual friends. So it was definitely like sad to see him go, but at the same time, the fact that one person did have to go, like it was almost like when Keith and Wendy raised the sail for Edge of Extinction. It was like, hey, like this is proof that
Yeah.
this has a very real impact on people. Um, and
Mhm.
COVID was a very scary time, very like we have no idea what's going on kind of time. And he made the best decision for himself and his mental health and his family. Like I said, he talked about it with his like to his family. He
Yeah.
didn't make a like gut instinct decision. He took a few days, talked about it
Love
with
it.
people, and this is the decision he came up with. And I think you see that at the tribal in the episode where everyone is like very respectful of the choice he made and they agree with it, but they made the decision to keep playing. But as a whole, it's just sad that this is the way it had to end, and it took literally a pandemic, a global epidemic, to knock Tejas out. So he can
Yeah,
at
that
least
he's
have
just
that.
that good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to talk about, whether it's like prod stuff or just about the episode or season?
Yeah, a little bit. Just I've turned into the defender in chief of season 6 on YouTube and Discord. It seems like because early on people weren't giving the season much of a chance for some reason. I don't really know why. I thought it was entertaining from the beginning, but I know partially what the reason was, and the reason was Noah, and people are on sour grapes on what happened last season. And I just want to set the record straight. I'm not super close with Noah, so I don't want people to be like, oh, he's just protecting his friend. I'm tighter with Bailey, but like as a whole, Noah was on production on 5 when I was playing. He was playing on 6 when I was on production, and then he wasn't really involved with season 7 production when I was more involved. So our overlap was like really weird. We basically didn't interact with one another. So I don't want this to be like, oh, he's just protecting his friend, because that's not what is going on. But the fact that Megan and Jackson's relationship got exposed was not Noah's fault. It was Abby's fault. And this is someone who's friends with Abby. Like, I'm much closer with Abby than Noah. It was entirely Abby's fault. Every single one of us on production will tell you we have talked about the ongoing season with our friends. We've talked about it with former castmates. I've talked about All-Stars with Sarah X all the time, knowing she's tight with Sam and could have exposed me at any point. And she did not, because she respects the integrity of the game, and I knew she would respect the integrity of the game. So Noah, talking to this person who'd been part of the Survivor Michigan community from season 2, should not have expected that person to expose anything he said to someone playing the game. And Jackson was already a huge threat coming into the game, probably went further than most of us expected, and would have made the merge if he didn't vote himself out. Megan was not a big threat going into the game, did not become a big threat after the relationship was exposed. And because she has some voodoo on her, I think she was getting 8th place no matter how the hell that season went, because she always gets 8th place somehow. So Megan and Jackson relationship getting exposed was not Noah's fault. It did not ruin that season. Did that season get ruined because people? Yes. Leia, Sam, whatever. That season sucked for reasons. But it was not because this happened. So the fact that Noah is now succeeding in season 6, don't let your bias on how season 5 went, because I was not happy with season 5 at all, but I enjoyed season 6 despite the fact that Noah was succeeding. Like, I didn't care. I was just happy that it was an entertaining season. If you dislike Noah, the personality of season 6, and that is what pisses you off, fine, whatever. Like, I know so many people hate my game personality also. Like, totally fine. You're allowed to hate whatever game personality you want. Understandable. But don't hate season 6 because someone who you think ruined season 5, who did not, by the way, Abby did, is succeeding now. Like, that is such a stupid reason, because realistically, this season is, like, especially pre-merge, like I said, was very similar to season 1. And a lot of people consider season 1 one of the best seasons of Survivor Michigan. So, like, and in a completely biased way, I find it the best one too. So, like, the fact that you can love season 1 and hate season 6, that doesn't really make sense. So just, yeah. I wanted to throw this out there because, like I said, I'm not a big Noah fan. I'm not particularly close with Noah. I am actually very close with Abby. And yet I can unbiasedly say Abby is the one that exposed that relationship, and that it did not ruin Megan and Jackson's game. It made their games maybe slightly harder, but it did not ruin their games. And I don't think it would have affected their placements that much. So please don't let the fact that Noah is succeeding in season 6 affect your overall opinion on season 6, right, if that is the reason you dislike Noah. Again, and if the reason you dislike Noah is because you can't stand his game personality, totally fine. Completely understandable. Like I said, people like certain game personalities and dislike others. But don't let something completely unrelated that isn't his fault color your overall opinion on this really good season.
Mm-hmm. Like, and if you really don't like Noah, just root against him. Like, I can feel it. His downfall is coming, and like, come on, like he's in such a good spot. But that usually just means that something's gonna happen.
Yeah,
but
every season needs a good villain to root against. I mean, right. Like, unfortunately, like, 5 the villains won, but like, In season 4, Jackson was a rootable villain. Like he was the villain of that season, but everyone still like found the guy engaging. Season 1, like Maison could have been the villain, Cooper could have been the villain, the Alexes could have been the villain, but however you took it, like they were engaging personalities. So like
Right.
fine, like if you dislike Noah's game personality, root against him, and maybe you'll be happy by the end of the season. But like, don't hate the season because of something so unrelated to season 6.
Yeah. Reached that. And like again, I also like don't know. No, I've met Noah maybe like twice. I don't even know if he knows my name. But like realistically, it's College Survivor. People treat this like it's an actual production. Like I mean, it is, but it's a college production and stuff happens, and to like tear down a whole season because one person theoretically did something that clearly did not even happen. It's crazy. And like I didn't know that much of this season going into it. And like, yes, I know some of the people, but watching it has been really fun. I've like found out so many things that I like didn't know. And it's been a really good season so far. And I'm excited to see what the rest of the season has to offer.
Yeah, it's an exciting season the rest of the way, even though it's online. And I know some people are going to be like, it's not as fun and it's online. Honestly, it's fine. Like, it's.
I think it helps. I think it helps that like we've already had all the characters established. We've already had these like in-person relationships established. Because I think like starting a season online is a lot different than like a season turning online because you if it starts online, you are gonna miss out on like seeing these in-person interactions. But like I think because we had those from the start, we've gotten these characters to develop to the point where like it turning online is not going to feel as big as a change as I think people think it's going to. Yes, the challenges are going to be a little different, but like you're just there's going to be more calls. Like that's essentially all that's really going to change.
And the
I
benefit
think like
of that is what we discovered in future seasons as well. People film a lot more when everything's online. So you will get some people that like maybe are partially invisible up till now, maybe having a bigger impact on the season because now they're online and things get filmed. Just every single thing they say from beginning to end gets filmed rather than when you meet in person and then you talk and then you're like, oh crap, I forgot to turn my phone on or like you get a text and then realize you ran out of storage 15 minutes ago. Like that doesn't happen. Like you're talking online, so everything is filmed. So like I said, I think you're going to get actually more engaging conversations, potentially some personalities that you hadn't seen as much of, maybe getting a bigger screen presence. So I think like, yes, it's going to be different. The challenges obviously are going to be the biggest change probably in terms of like, we probably aren't going to have like an elaborate relay race of like stacking things and knocking them down and dominoes and all that. Like, yeah, obviously we can't really make people set that up themselves, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have non-survivory challenges. Like there's still going to be, you know, what they are able to do just in the comfort of their own home, basically. Exactly. And it's still going to be engaging. George is still going to edit it really well. He edited season 1 really well, and he's edited this season really well so far. So yeah, we've gotten really lucky with editors between George and Ian, honestly. So it's still going to be a very good season, and I think the best is, as fun as it's been so far, the best is yet to come for sure.
And I think it also will give a little taste of what is to be expected in season 7 because I know that will be a little bit more of a tougher pill to swallow because we're starting online, but season 7 is also pretty fun, and I think it's good that we're going from 6 to in person to online to 7 online. That way it's not like it's not a hard like, oh, online time. We have this kind of transitionary period, and then season 7 is online, but I think people will hopefully be used to it by then.
Yeah, and like little preview for season 7. Season 7 has my favorite people that I've ever played in Survivor Michigan. Like it is the personalities on that season are absolutely insane. So even if you're like, I don't want to watch a whole COVID season, they will keep you engaged. I promise.
Yeah, I promise you. Like these, I mean, I live with 2 of them. Like these people, you'll like them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any more thoughts. Thank you so much, Akshay, for coming. It was so nice to talk to you. I hope to have you again, like season 7, even season 6. Like I don't care. You're always welcome.
Yeah, no, this was the episode that I was like I said, I was there. I was there for the production discussions. I remember like almost every single detail of like what we were talking about. So I was like, I need to be there to tell you the behind the scenes
I know
of this episode in particular.
you started listing like dates. You were like, "Oh, this happened on Tuesday." I was like, I don't even remember what challenge last or what day the challenge happened last week of the current season filming. Like, that's crazy. But
No, that's
I guess in
why.
terms of like, and if you compare it to like when COVID happened, it makes sense. But
Yeah.
like,
No,
I don't have that memory.
that's why they call me the Survivor Michigan historian, man. I remember weird details about like my own experiences, so then I get to share them in podcasts like this, and the fans that have lasted an hour and 15, an hour 20 minutes of us talking, they get to hear all the behind the scenes things that everyone who's just watching the show is missing out on.
Exactly. Okay. So thank you guys for watching, and remember, keep your torch lit.